What's going on, everyone? This is Kevin here, coming at you with my review of the Infinix Hot 60 Pro Plus. So without further ado, let's get started. So this is the Infinix Hot 60 Pro Plus. Now I'm sure you can already tell, this phone has a stunning rear color to it. This color is called Sonic Yellow, and I think it looks really awesome. I especially love this kind of wavy design to it, and it technically has a frosted back to it as well. But I just want to point this out as it's an example of a smartphone brand that is giving their phones kind of a nice look to the back panels, and I wish more companies would do that instead of just giving us boring looking smartphones. Now this device is certainly meant to be more of an entry-level option, but it certainly brings a lot to the table that I find to be pretty unique. The first thing, and you can see it right here on the box, is that this phone is only 5.95 millimeters thick. So that is a very slim design here, and compared to the Galaxy S25 Edge, for example, that phone is 5.8 inches, so this phone really isn't much thicker in comparison. Now, this phone is meant to be a very budget option. It is below $200. In fact, it doesn't even have 5G connectivity, so I'm not really sure who in 2025 would even want a phone without 5G, but I suppose maybe if you live in a region where 5G is not common, even at this point, then that doesn't really matter to you. And there's certainly a lot else to like about this device. So if you can overlook the lack of 5G, which again for me I think is very important, then maybe that's not actually much of a problem. But before we get too far into things here with the phone itself, I do want to show you a few things inside of the box and then also go over some other specifications. So this phone does have 8 gigabytes of RAM. However, this model of the phone does have 256 gigabytes of storage. So that is very impressive. We're getting some other perks too, like 144 Hz refresh rate. We're getting Corning Gorilla Glass. We're getting NFC and even an IP64 rating. And then inside of the box, we are getting this very impressive 45 watt fast charger. We're also getting a USB-C cable, and it is a special one that is compatible with that charger to give you those fast charging speeds. And then also in the box, we are getting a slim case. However, it is a nice looking case. There is a screen protector, and then finally there is a install guide and kit for installing that screen protector. Now this phone does have a curved display panel on it, and this screen protector is curved. And we're also getting a SIM card removal tool. Now with this device, we're getting an excellent display panel here. Now like I mentioned, we are getting a curved display, but there's not a whole lot of curve to it. So if you are someone who doesn't like curved displays, I wouldn't call this a deal breaker by any means. And in many ways, they did a good job here with the implementation. Now this display is 6.78 inches, so certainly a very large phone and tall display here as well, with it being 20 by 9. And then the display itself is AMOLED, and we're also getting a 144 Hz refresh rate. So a super fast and smooth refresh rate here with the device. Certainly something that you wouldn't expect to find with a budget phone like this one, but it really does make things feel a lot different here. Everything's super clear, colors are excellent. Honestly, this is one of the best displays that I've used recently on a device, and that's saying a lot, again, considering that this phone is meant to be very affordable. So AMOLED was certainly a great choice here. Now the display is 1080p, but everything's super crisp and clear. We're getting a PPI of 440. We're getting a 20 by 9 aspect ratio, like I mentioned, so a narrow but tall form factor. And then finally, we're getting an 89.3% screen to body ratio. So very small bezels all throughout here. And then up top here, there is a hole punch for the front facing camera. Now that front camera is 13 megapixels, and stay tuned for a little bit later on in the video, as I'll be showing you photo and video samples from both cameras here on the device. And that is something I want to point out here. Even though it looks like there are 3 cameras in the back of the phone, there's actually only 1 on the back. So I guess that was kind of an aesthetic decision on the behalf of Infinix, but there are just 2 cameras here on the phone. The good news though is that the main camera on the back is actually pretty good. And then as I mentioned with this device, based on the version of it that you are getting, you can get in either 128 gigabytes or 256. However, there is no microSD card expansion. And then there's also no wireless charging here with the phone, but we are getting an in-display fingerprint sensor, and it's very fast and responsive, so that works really well. So I'm glad we're getting that here. Again, another feature that makes this phone feel a lot more premium than it actually even is. Now, as I mentioned, the rear camera on this device is 50 megapixels, and then we are getting portrait mode with both the rear and front-facing cameras. But let's now take a look at some camera samples from the Infinix Hot 60 Pro Plus. So all of these results speak for themselves because you can literally see the images right there in front of you, but I'm actually very impressed, especially considering that this phone is meant to be a budget smartphone, and MediaTek especially, who's created the processor here in the phone, has really gone above and beyond lately with their image processing. I've been very impressed with this brand, and I definitely think their technology really plays a big role in how this phone can deliver great looking images, despite not being that expensive of a device. And Infinix does advertise this phone as being an AI smartphone, and I think definitely AI plays a role here with the image processing, really giving us some nice looking results. But let's take a look at some video samples from the Infinix Hot 60 Pro Plus. What's going on, everyone? This is Kevin here with a 2K video taken with the rear camera here on the Infinix Hot 60 Pro Plus. And it is actually pretty hot out today. We've got very fast autofocus in video mode, which is great. Now, if you hear that humming noise, that is actually my air conditioner making that noise, so it's not from the phone. Just want to clarify. And here's a 2K front-facing test video from the Infinix Hot 60 Pro Plus. So it looks like pretty good quality from what I can see, at least with the viewfinder. I'm definitely curious to know what you think of also the audio quality in addition to the video quality. Now with this device, we're getting 8GB of RAM, and from my experience, things do run very smoothly here. Of course, don't expect to get flagship level performance, but at the same time, 8GB of RAM is fine. And then the processor that we're getting is the MediaTek Helio G200. So again, one of the limitations with that processor and the phone in general is that there is no 5G connectivity with this device. So that certainly can be disappointing and maybe even a deal breaker for certain customers. Now, Infinix does sell plenty of other phones with 5G, so definitely take a look at their other options if you especially want to stick with this brand and also have 5G. And then I did run a benchmark test using Geekbench 6, and here are the scores that I got from that test. So I got a single core score of 717 and a multi-core score of 2011. So what I recommend doing is running this test on your current phone and then compare your scores to these scores to see how the Infinix Hot 60 Pro Plus compares to what you currently have. Now with this device, we're getting a very large 5160 mAh internal battery and then 45 watt fast charging. Now both of those things are very impressive here, especially considering that this phone is so slim. So it's really incredible that they put such a large battery in this device, and I definitely applaud Infinix for that. Definitely expect to get very good battery life here with the phone, but then also when it's time to actually recharge the device, it is super fast at 45 watts. Another nice thing too is the software. So this device is running Infinix version of their own Android skin, but Infinix has also pledged to give this device up to 3 major Android software updates. And this phone is running Android 15 out of the box, so that's definitely really awesome. Now you can see up here it says sound is by JBL, which is awesome. JBL is a great brand, and this device does have stereo audio, so another premium feature that I typically wouldn't expect to find with a phone in this price segment. And then also having NFC is great too, so you can use the phone for tap and pay. But take a look at the right side of the phone here. We have volume up and down, and then also the power button. On the left side, we have nothing. And then up top here, we've got the IR blaster, so you can use the phone to change the TV channel on your TV, for example. We have the microphone, speaker. Then on the bottom of the device, we have another speaker. We have the USB-C port for charging and data transfer, microphone, SIM card slot, and that's pretty much it. And then on the back of the phone, we have the flash, camera. Also, one of these is actually used as a depth sensor for portrait mode, and then the other one is purely cosmetic. So you can kind of discuss in the comments what you think about that. But overall, this is a very nice looking smartphone. Certainly a phone that delivers a lot of great options and abilities here, especially considering that we're getting a great looking display. It's a slim design, so this might be a good secondary phone for you, maybe if you can't deal with some of those compromises. But again, it's a great value here. We're getting a lot for the money, and I'm very impressed here with the Infinix Hot 60 Pro Plus.